Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Today we'll be discussing some of the most interesting facts about the wizarding world of Harry Potter that some of the biggest fans of the series don't even know. At least, not yet. With so much material available out there to uncover the characters, events, and places associated with the Harry Potter series, it seems almost impossible that there would be facts out there that the majority of fans wouldn't already know. From novels to films, and even the wizardingworld.com's fact files, information about this magical universe is readily accessible. And yet, as it happens, there are actually quite a few pieces of information that even the most die-hard fans will find surprising. In today's video, we'll be covering 10 of them. Let's get to it. Fact 1. The Weasley twins were born on April Fool's Day. Everyone knows Fred and George Weasley were always on the hunt for their next prank. They even turned their love of stunts and mischief into a successful joke shop, Weasley's Wizard Wheezers, located in none other than Diagon Alley. But did you know that the Harry Potter series' most beloved mischief makers were indeed born on April 1st, aka April Fool's Day in 1978? It's true. This delightfully fun fact about Hogwarts' most infamous pranksters is more than fitting, considering all of the trouble that Fred and George loved to get up to, from sneaking out of the castle through secret passageways to testing joke suites on first-year students. Fact 2. Minerva McGonagall was a hat stool. For those who may be unfamiliar with the term, a hat stool is an archaic Hogwarts term for any new student whose sorting takes longer than 5 minutes. This is an exceptionally long time for the sorting hat to deliberate, and occurs rarely, perhaps once every 50 years. This definition of a hat stool is according to wizardingworld.com, which also states that Professor Minerva McGonagall is one of the few hat stools in recent history, alongside Peter Wormtail Pettigrew. In Minerva's case, the sorting hat is said to have taken 5.5 minutes to eventually decide on placing her in Gryffindor over Ravenclaw. Of course, this makes sense when you consider how bright and intelligent Professor McGonagall is. Fact 3. Gandalf the Grey's portrait hung in the headmaster's office at Hogwarts. In the second movie installment of the series, The Chamber of Secrets, a portrait can be seen of the Lord of the Rings character, Gandalf the Grey. This picture is hung up in Professor Albus Dumbledore's office, which is, of course, the headmaster's office at Hogwarts. Although to some this may suggest that Gandalf's character is part of the wizarding world of Harry Potter, many believe this was simply a nod to the Lord of the Rings, as a predecessor to Harry Potter within the fantasy genre. Fact 4. Harry arrived at and departed from number 4 Privet Drive in the exact same way. On November 1st, 1981, Harry was brought to his relative's house at number 4 Privet Drive, carried by Sirius Black's motorbike, driven by Rubeus Hagrid. Over a decade and a half later, in late July of 1997, Harry left the Dursleys' home on Privet Drive for the last time in a motorbike, once again driven by Hagrid. Fact 5. Hogwarts Castle is mostly made up of staircases. This is somewhat of a joke, but with a total of 142 staircases found within the castle of Hogwarts, it's hard to imagine there being much room for anything else. Although I suppose with multiple towers and turrets, 7 levels above ground and very extensive dungeons, this fact does check out. Of course, as you may know, some move, some don't, and some are hidden within the very walls of the castle itself. Fact 6. Characters' names give away their traits and personalities. One of the most obvious examples of a character's name in Harry Potter being a dead giveaway to who they really were was Remus Lupin. As you may recall, Lupin was one of James Potter's former best mates and the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor during Harry's 3rd year at school. He was also secretly a werewolf. His name, however, for anyone who was paying attention, revealed this fact long before Harry and his pals learned the truth. To start with, his first name Remus can be traced back to the Roman myth of the twins Remus and Romulus, who were raised by wolves. Secondly, his last name Lupin is closely related to the Latin word lupine, which comes from lupus and literally means wolf. Other examples of this run rampant throughout the series, including Fenrir Greyback, another werewolf in the series. In this instance, Fenrir was the name of an enormous wolf in Norse mythology, so once again, this character's attributes as a werewolf were revealed within his name. Another fun one is Hogwarts caretaker Argus Filch, who was tasked with keeping an eye on the grounds of the castle and the general student population, especially after curfew. Argus was also the name of a creature in Greek mythology that had 100 eyes, which the beast used to watch all that was happening around him. Quite fitting, if you ask me. Fact 7. Sprout and Flitwick's romance was a spoof by College Humor. There was a time when many fans believed that Professor Pomona Sprout and Professor Phileas Flitwick had engaged in a romantic relationship for many years. As it turns out, this rumor was actually fabricated by the internet comedy company College Humor, now known as Dropout. It's said that this rumor was further flamed by some translated special editions of the books, which included the rumor as a fun fact. Fact 8. Muggle and squib were once real words. Many of the words used in the Harry Potter series are so specific to the Wizarding World that it goes without saying that they're completely made up. Sure, many of them are derived from other languages, some of which are now considered dead. Yes, I'm referring to the abundance of words that are based on Latin, but for the most part, if you look up terms or phrases like Wingardium Leviosa or Avada Kedavra, you'll find explanations about these words and their origins in relation to Harry Potter. But did you know that both Muggle and squib were actual words used back in the 15 and 1600s? While Muggle was used as a rather unpopular alternative to sweetheart, squibs were small firecrackers that went off rather quickly. Eventually, squibs became synonymous with something of a disappointment, specifically when compared to a certain expectation, which is much like Harry Potter's version of squib. Fact 9. The titles of some novels changed before publication. Some of the names of the Harry Potter books were going to be something much different than what they were published as. For example, The Chamber of Secrets was originally going to be The Half-Blood Prince, whereas the fourth novel was originally listed as The Doomspell Tournament. The Doomspell Tournament title was leaked to the public, which is why it was changed originally to the Triwizard Tournament, before eventually being released as The Goblet of Fire. And before its American release as The Sorcerer's Stone, the Philosopher's Stone was almost published in the States as Harry Potter and the School of Magic. Yikes. Fact 10. The Dursleys' terrible gifts may have represented more than we thought. During Harry's first Christmas away from home, his Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon sent him a 50-pence piece. While this was certainly a step up from some of the previous gifts he'd received from the Dursleys, like his uncle's pair of old socks, one can hardly claim that a 50-pence piece was a good gift. However, when you consider this coin together with two of the other Christmas presents that the Dursley sent to Harry over the years, there's a bit of a curious interpretation that could be made. To explain, there was that Christmas that they sent him a toothpick, followed by a, thankfully, unused tissue a couple of years later. Listed out individually, it's easy to dismiss these everyday, ordinary items as, well, simply terrible gifts. But if you consider them together, a coin, a toothpick, and a tissue, it's possible to think that maybe they were meant to be representations of none other than the Deathly Hallows. The coin being the Resurrection Stone, the toothpick, the Elder Wand, and the tissue being the Cloak of Invisibility. Of course, I'm not suggesting that Dursley sent these gifts with the intention of them representing the Deathly Hallows. I'm sure the mere mention of magical artifacts like these would have made Petunia faint and Vernon pop an angry purple vein in his forehead. That said, it's rather interesting to imagine that perhaps these clues were put here as little Easter eggs ahead of the final installment of the series. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. What did you think? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.